start, I just want to say that we are going to be live streaming this as an FYI, just so everybody is aware. There's audio and video. It is kept and published on YouTube as well, and so it will be publicly accessible audio and video. Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order at 5:34 p.m. on November 9th for the ASWWU Executive. Okay, so first we have to review the item.
I think we're just going to go to public comment.
Okay, next we're going to move on to consent items. So hopefully everybody was able to review both the meeting minutes for October 19th, the 2nd, and then also the 2 committee appointments we went over last time. Both of those are consent item. Is there anything anybody would like to discuss briefly with any of those? Would anybody like a motion to approve the consent items?
Grab motions to approve the consent items.
Comment seconds.
Has been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent items as listed in the agenda document say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Okay, next we're going to move on to public forum. We have set aside today 15 minutes for public forum. Every person that's here, you have 2 minutes to share, and please feel free to step to the front of the room or sit up front while speaking if you would like during public comment. I know that there are quite a few today, so we have 15 minutes for that today to speak.
Is it 2 minutes per, or can someone go up there for more than 2? Like just
2 minutes per person.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time, everybody. Okay, so I am Matthew Benedict. I'm a constituent from Students for Renewable Energy. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the divestment campaign that's been going on. Our club has been working on it for the last 10 years or so. The Orange Square. It's the symbol for the global divestment movement. This was a protest that we did back in 2012. We've done lots since then. We got lots of signatures from students and staff. We did marches when the foundation was like, we're not going to listen to the resolution. Some people from our club climbed on top of the rec center. That was wild and great. So you know, since the early days of the campaign, we kind of changed to being more like, let's work with the foundation to try to change the money management, and so we can divest from fossil fuels in that sort of way. And you know, I think we all need to be aware that we're focusing on the social license aspect of this. There's a lot of other pillars of the fossil fuel industry, like finance, access, and permits, but this really affects the social license aspect. And you have to do things that also affect the other pillars. So RFPs happening this year. We're trying to change the money management or get it better. Cleaner portfolio with Russell Investments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
Is anybody else here for public comment? Yeah, we have a whole 15 minutes. Anybody else would like to use 2 minutes to speak?
I think he was planning to go for 15 minutes. Yeah.
I just want to say props to you guys. Thanks for what you do. Excited to work together on this. The lesson happening.
Go.
I guess I'll say, as the faculty club advisor, I couldn't be prouder of the student leadership from over all the years of this campaign. It's been since the launch of the campaign in November of 2011. The students had gone to that launch in Seattle and came back and said, we want to do this. And it's, you know, change takes a long time, longer than, say, the students 4 years or 5 years out on campus, so 11, 12 years ago. And so I just want to applaud you all for being at this stage of phase 2 of a resolution to urge the foundation to clean up their investments to match Western values. So I applaud you for your work and the resolution that you're working on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there is nothing else from the guests here today, next we're going to be moving on to information items, which we have President Sabal with us here today to share a little bit about his priorities for the year, his goals, and then also open it up for any of the executive board members that have any questions for him.
Thanks so much, Aaron, to the executive for having me there. And I've shared, with you as we need some of the work we are doing, but I thought it'd be nice to have an opportunity also to visit with you. So thanks for creating the opportunity. Earlier this week, I was in a meeting with the Gates Foundation, and this was regarding the proposal that a consortia of education and community partners have submitted to the Gates Foundation for funding. Western is one of the educational partners. And it's about expanding access to schools in the rural districts on the Olympic Peninsula. And so it really worked over there. And so what I was sharing with the Gates Foundation, so the proposal is one of the finalists. And their process is to send a team to really sit down and talk with different partners to see what they're trying to do. And so what I was sharing with them during the meeting was that, our work here at Western, and particularly at least in terms of my priorities, have been driven really by two longer term sort of North Star, if you would, elements. One, how do we serve the state of Washington with a focus on communities and regions that have been underrepresented or underserved historically when it comes to higher education. And that's what, in many ways, has led to the work that we are doing on KidSAP on the Olympic Peninsula, where there is no four-year provider. And then the second element is this notion of advancing inclusive student success, both in terms of raising retention graduation rates for every student and eliminating achievement gaps that exist among different students and student groups. And I was telling them that, while the work from year to year changes, again, there are different priorities, there are, as you know, issues that come out, emergencies that come up that need to be addressed. What I've tried to do is to keep that sort of as a North Star. At the end of the day, you need to make progress on those two overarching goals for the university as a public comprehensive institution here in the state of Washington. So with that in mind, some of the things this year in particular that we are working on. As you know, we have been knock on wood successful in recruiting two really large classes to the university the past 2 years. And so part of the challenge is how do we sustain it going forward, and also how do we, as we sustain it, how do we ensure that the distribution is consistent with the population demographics of the state of Washington. And so that's one of the key priorities in terms of keeping the momentum there. The part that I have been concerned about is that we haven't made as much progress on retention and success rates, and then the pandemic really set us behind. The good news is that this fall, the first year retention rate, which is an early marker, is much better than a year ago. A year ago it had dropped to 77%. I think it's over 79% this year, and even a percentage increase is considerable. So I am heartened by that progress, but I think we need to do some extensive work when it comes to advising and supporting students again who don't have the privilege of knowing how the education enterprise works. And so that's the other piece. I mentioned peninsulas. The legislature gave us quite a bit of money last year to start a number of new academic programs on the peninsula, and so we'll be we are working on a program in data science, sociology, industrial engineering, which will be a new engineering program over there, but also over here. And then a program in social work. There's significant need of social workers in that area. I think that's all over Washington, it's not just. And so we are going to be working on that as well as an outreach structure over there. What else can I tell you? The work that Jacqueline started last year, I think it was only sort of starting and scratching the surface. And so I think that is really important in terms of following up, in terms of what type of systemic change needs to really develop a culture of community and belonging. I think we have quite a bit of work to do, as you all know very well in terms of your work with the students. So I think that's really critical. I appreciate the comments earlier made about the foundation portfolio. I think the work with the foundation is really important. And we have been increasing the aspirations in terms of the money that they raise, most of them really for student scholarships. So that's really part of the work going forward. We were talking earlier in the reception about the legislative agenda for the supplemental session, and so that's critical, and really are sort of looking forward to seeing your priorities and how we align them going forward. But our requests right now have been primarily around the Campus to Campus program, but really with broader outreach to Title I schools, and how do we develop a pipeline from Title I schools into higher education and hopefully into Western. So that's one request. The second request is we had submitted a proposal last year to fund a master's program in electrical engineering that wasn't funded because of all the other priorities we had. So we're going to go back and see if we can get some funding for that proposal. And the third one is Collegiate High School, which again is an effort to how do we reach out to students in high school and open some doors for them, really. And we, as you know, we had never participated in that program before because it was a program where students had to pay for it. But the legislature changed that last year. Now the legislature is providing funding, and we thought that it's a good opportunity, really, since everyone has an opportunity to participate, to see if we can open doors for students who have typically being disadvantaged from that perspective. And the last thing I would say is that every 7 years, so our regional accreditation agency, the accreditation process is a 7-year process. This year is the 7th year of the last cycle. So we are going to be visited by the accreditation agency in spring. I think it's April, and we'll be reaching out to you. They want to meet with student leaders, want to talk about them, and so I'll send you the dates about it. It's, I'm pretty optimistic that, I think we'll get really accredited. I'm sure that they'll have some recommendations to improve, which is totally fine, and which are needed. But I think that is an important process because one, it guarantees sort of the quality of the university and the education we provide, and it is needed for Pell Grants. So for students to be eligible for federal aid, you need to be accredited by a regional accreditation agency. So it's very critical from that perspective, and we take it very seriously. So those are some of the things. But love to hear from you today, and hopefully this will be a continuing process that we can throughout the year connect and see how we work together really to benefit the students of the university, both current and potential future students. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I am a big fan of expanding sort of the access to a higher education on the peninsula. Being from Kitsap myself, in high school I thought that Western was in Hillsborough, and because there's that satellite campus there, so I'm curious if part of that sort of idea is that campus going to be sort of expanded and better fitted to suit the rest of the peninsula, or is there another plan there?
Great question. So, the challenge of the peninsulas is, as you very well know, it's a very distributed geography. There is no one population base. So currently, we deliver programs in Bremerton, at the OC campus, in the location over there, in Paulsville, as you mentioned, and then in Port Angeles, where we are co-located with Peninsula College over there. All the programs are 2+2, and part of the reason for that is to keep the cost of education down. Community college is cheaper, so we let students take the first 2 years with community colleges and the next 2 years with Western. We started a guaranteed admission program about a year and a half ago, so if you're admitted to, say, Olympic College, you're also admitted to Western. You need to maintain a certain GPA and whatnot. Our plan, to specifically to your question, is, and we're talking with Olympic College, is to approach the legislature for a new building on the Paulsville campus. But not so much in terms of delivering all our programs. They would still like to keep the distributed distribution. In fact, we are talking about delivering some programs in Forks in Olympic, because we have a number of tribes there. It's hard to expect that they'll show up where we are, so we need to reach out where they are. But the reason for a structure over there is twofold. One, we also got some funding for developing an outreach hub for that entire region, and so we need some space, and we are out of space that we share with Olympic College in Paulsville. And the second region you may or may not know is that we have a very significant cyber range operations in Paulsville that serves the entire state. That serves Central, University of Washington, Eastern, about 15 community colleges, a number of school districts, and it's basically the intent is cybersecurity programs where students can actually work in the cyber range to really get first-hand experience in terms of what's going on. So we need space for that. The ladies were interested in expanding that program, and as you know, there are a number of ladies based over there. So we will be requesting building for sort of a hub in Paulsville, but still delivering programs, some of as distributed programs.
Cool. Thank you.
I know I've stated this before, but I have to say I'm extremely excited for college and the high school to be coming to Western. I know that this is a long work in progress that you guys have been working on, but it's super exciting, especially as somebody who wasn't able to afford it previously. I think when I went through high school, you could only access it for community colleges, but it was like $200 for a couple of credits or $300, and that was not in the picture for me at the time. And so it is super exciting that it's free from the state, that I'm really excited that Western is implementing it, especially having siblings that are in high school right now. And so it's just very, very exciting to see. And I know that it's a long work in the progress, or long work in progress. But
thank you. And as Gabe can testify, the fact that the Senate talks about it a lot. And part of it is they want to ensure that the quality is there if you're going to be delivering in high school, and it is a Western brand. We have also been talking about delivering it on the peninsulas. And so we hopefully do that next week. But I am excited about the opportunity. And I really need to applaud the advocates and the legislature for making it free for students. I think that was an important step.
does anybody else have any other questions for President Spa today?
Yes.
Are there any set trainings for those working in the outreach and retention kind of areas when you're working with these lower income and diverse students, especially students who maybe English isn't their first language or are first gen students?
Great question, and I would say not enough, but we are certainly working on it to make sure that I think one of the programs that has been successful, as you know, is the Campus to Campus program that has operated for a number of years. But I think one of the things that has made it successful to have peer-to-peer ventures rather than people who are, at a different age bracket and also peers who they can relate to. So we are part of the request for the legislature is to expand that program. So we can reach more high schools, particularly Title I high schools from that perspective. We have also been trying to work with admissions on bilingual and other mechanisms that makes people more comfortable. And to their credit, admissions and financial aid, I think over the past couple of years have done a great job particularly with financial aid applications, as you may know or may have heard, that our FAFSA completion rate last year and the year before was over 80%. The state average is about 47%. A lot of it really credit goes to the folks in financial aid and admissions. But to your point, there is a lot of work to do, particularly as the demographics keep moving in that direction.
I have a question that is based on something that you shared. I know that you and I talked briefly about the foundation, and then we also have individuals here today. I was wondering, since you discussed specifically about the foundation needing to increase its or its
Portfolio
portfolio. Yeah. I'm interested within that. As far as you are aware, how big of a priority is sustainability within that? I know some of us have kind of met with the foundation, but I'm really interested to see from your opinion or from your views that sustainability is playing a role in that.
And to be honest with you, I haven't had recent conversations, so I can't tell you. And as you know, the Alumni Association and the Foundation combined, so it's a totally different board now. I mean, some of the people are the same, but it's a different structure in terms of the board. What I can tell you is that two things. One, that talking with some of the folks, it was important for them to move in that direction or to continue to move in that direction. And the other thing that was important was how do we make sure that the rate of return on the investments provides the resources that we need to support students in other parts of the university. So that's sort of the trade-off. But as we discussed, I will follow up personally also with the leadership and advancement and see where they are, and what's going on, and how do we both engage students in a meaningful way, but also how do we keep making progress to the program goals we have for the university and for the foundation.
We're really interested specifically around the sustainability action plan and how that overlaps with the foundation. I don't know if you've had a chance to read our resolution, but it kind of talks a little bit about that. And we hope to present it to some other parts of the university if it passes today. But yeah, it's just something that's on students' minds.
Absolutely. I think it's important. Yeah. And we also talked, Karen and I will be met, I think, early this week.
Yeah, we met this week, yeah.
Talk about transparency issue too, and how do we make sure that the portfolio is more open in terms of people knowing where we are. So.
Got another question about Ulta. Just given my position, being sustainability and everything, with that new building, would it be possible to focus on getting a LEED certification for that?
We can certainly try, and we haven't gotten that far. So we just hired, and going to in fact sign the paperwork after the long weekend on consultant for pre-design.
Okay.
And then the plan is that this time next year to go to the legislature for the design bill. But absolutely, I'll keep you informed, and we have increased that level, on campuses, Kaiser Rosari and others, and so there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to have an aggressive goal over there. And so we, as you know, we took over the mini aquarium with the Sea Discovery Center over there that now the university manages, which is a really good outreach. And so one of the most successful programs on the peninsula is the environmental science environmental studies program. So I think it's consistent in terms of how to make sure things are aligned.
I figured that's why I was asking, because next to cybersecurity, my understanding is that the sort of Max and Grading Coastal Science program is the other big one out there, so having that aligned would be awesome.
Yeah, on another note, I just want to say I would love to schedule a meeting with you to discuss the Legislative Affairs Council and the students' legislative priorities.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. I'll reach out.
Please send me a note. We'll definitely get together. I'd love to see what your thoughts are.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well,
Well, thank you so much.
yes, thank you
You
so
have
much
a
for
great
coming
rest
today.
of
I
the
hope you
meeting.
have a great great rest of your night.
Thanks for staying so late.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next we are going to be moving on to our information items. First today we have some club policy. This is already enacted, but all students got an email about it earlier this week, and I only included one. The other one, I accidentally only included one policy, but every single student in the university got an email out from Melinda Husky regarding the club policy, and I thought that it would be important to share today to, one, bring it to everybody's attention in case they were unable to review the email that was sent to all students, but especially since all of us engage in various different clubs, depending whether it be our personal, academic, or specifically in our operations or within our roles, we're interacting a lot with clubs, and so I thought that it would be really important that we're all on the same, on the same page. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. There's nothing really else to kind of talk about necessarily. This just kind of goes over violations of student club policy standards and procedures, and so kind of just group accountability and what that looks like. And so it is, if somebody has individual behavior that does not align with the student code of conduct, the entire club can be held accountable for those actions. And it is very different policy that's being implemented here at Western, and it is going to have possible impact on student clubs that otherwise there would not be. Yeah, but does anybody, I can't answer too many questions about it since I was not involved in it, but I'm just bringing it to people's attention. Is there anything anybody wanted to share or go over with it? It's really just bringing it to your attention.
I just have an advisor note for clarification. As presented, this is an update to the procedure that relates to the policy. Okay. Cool. So you all are aware and how university policy is affirmed, and then it's below that policy level that the procedures are updated. So for clarification, great resource for any and all of you that are interacting with clubs as you get questions. This is going to be that primary resource document for you as far as that response.
Okay, if nobody has anything, next we are going to be moving on to our second information item, which is the ASWWU resolution in favor of divestment. I would like to pass it over to Vice President Hunt to discuss today.
Yeah, so this was last week in other business, but I didn't actually have a resolution to give y'all. Hopefully you had a chance to look this over. Kind of very quickly note that this was voted on in the Senate and passed unanimously. And yeah, it is 7 pages long, so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. The first chunk of the whereas statements are just establishing a scientific basis for climate change. Hopefully we're all aware of that. Then it goes into more of the effects that it might be having on, that it is having on the international community as well as Western. Then it goes into the STARS rating, which is our sustainability score for the university as a large, how our investments dinged us from getting a gold rating, how currently our investments are not aligned with the goals set out in the SAP, how this is SAP is a Sustainability Action Plan passed in 2017. And establishing the history of student and faculty advocacy for this issue. As our guest noted earlier, this is a very long and ongoing effort that has spanned more than a decade, and we have made significant progress in decarbonizing our portfolio. The latest number that I got is 55% of our portfolio is in ESG. But the main problem is that other 45%, we have absolutely no idea. In talks with the foundation, we have learned that information is accessible to a certain extent, that the public is able to know what those numbers are, where that money's at. However, the foundation has not put in the effort to do that. And this is not only urging them to be more transparent, but also continue to divest, continue to have it as a goal. And yeah, like, I don't know, we've made a lot of good progress, we have a lot of momentum, and it would be a shame to see it just sort of fizzle out. Another important note is this year is, as was mentioned earlier, the foundation is looking for RFPs, for requests for proposals, which is where different investment firms will come and say, hey, let us manage your money, here's what we can do for you. And an important note is that in 2018, ESG and student voices were like big focuses, or big parts of moving from common fund to Russell Investments, which is where we began investing in ESG. And yeah, it's another one of those years where we look at our manager, our portfolio manager, and say, hey, is this something we still want to move forward with, or is there another option out there? And this resolution advocates for including ESG as a big focus, and working with a investment firm that will continue to completely decarbonize our portfolio and hopefully result in us being fossil fuel free. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Be happy to answer them.
Yeah, well, this is a logistical question, and if there's a more substantial questions, feel free to see to those. But I know we had talked about the faculty senate's involvement in this, and I'm looking at the bottom and talk about the executive committee of the faculty senate. Where's the intention to just have the faculty exec pass it, or the full faculty senate pass it?
Do you know when the next faculty senate meeting is? So the entire committee?
Yeah, so every other week the faculty senate meets in its entirety, and then the opposite week the faculty senate exec meets. And the faculty senate exec is usually the kind of the group that works on making the agenda. So this Monday, the agenda is already set for the 13th meeting of the faculty senate. The 20th will be the faculty senate exec, and I'm pending ongoing staff, so we can get it through the faculty senate. We're trying to go through the whole thing, and then the last meeting of the quarter will be on the 27th. And the chair of the faculty senate, Brendan, has indicated that it would probably be possible to get it on the 27th agenda in front of the whole faculty senate.
That would be ideal. A very short and simple answer to that question is as soon as we possibly can. My understanding was the 27th was the soonest opportunity to get that approved. So if that sounds correct, then yeah.
Something to add as well, Dave, there's been an email that has been sent to you that me and I are both CC'd on, where it's asking you clarification on behalf of one senator about bringing the resolution forward. And so since you are the person who is going to be doing that, since it's under your purview, the faculty senate, I really think that kind of question goes to you. I feel like you are the one who can best answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, it was Craig done, is that right?
Yeah, Craig, we've been working with a couple of different faculty members to get the history and draft this up, and Craig is one of those folks.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I'm assuming it passes today. I'll be meeting with Brandon next week about it. And yeah, I did see that email from Devin.
Yeah.
So that was a class all day today, so, you know.
That's another good thing. I'm going to jump back in here. Just so it's in the minutes and everything, we would like this to be immediately moved to an action item and voted on today. So yeah.
This isn't really a question on the substance of it. I think Kira might have mentioned that you both might be visiting the LAC to discuss this divestment.
Yeah, that is kind of a broader question. That is more of next steps of what we are going to be doing. It's similarly but a little bit different and not necessarily for this meeting. We are talking about next steps for this. Once it passes here, hopefully it will go to the faculty senate. But after that, in December, there's a board of trustees meeting. This, when it passes, will be part of the official board of trustees meetings, or meeting minutes, part of the Associated Students submitted packet. And then also we are looking to, since we have such low turnout rates and we're really speaking on behalf of students here, it is not always taken to the same extent. I get it, we're making a resolution on behalf of all students, but at the same time, we're only so many people sitting in a room, and so the next steps are is we're going to be asking clubs to sign off onto the resolution as well, to endorse it, or to release their own statement that better aligns with their mission, since we're speaking on behalf of all students, but we have 3.25 or 3.5 election turnout rates. We were voted in by such a small part of the university, and we can only represent students in such a way, and so we're really hoping that we can bring it to the larger student body and they can sign on it as well, since this is an issue that a lot of students care about, and that it's not just students in these rooms. So that was kind of the intention of going to LAC as a venue to reach a broader audience of individuals who could possibly sign on to it, or share opinions and thoughts. Yeah, so that's kind of the next couple of steps, but we're just gonna, after it goes from here, it's gonna continue to go to further bodies. So, yeah. Are there any other questions or comments?
Prep motions to.
No. Let's have somebody else do it, since it's that you brought forward. Let's have somebody else do it. I'm sorry. I would like to open it up to you. I would like to move this to an action item.
Godwin moves to move the ASWWU resolution in favor of divestment to an action item.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, it passes. It's now going to be an action item. Okay, any comments? Anybody? I would like to open it up if anybody would like to move to approve the resolution.
Long moves to agree to the resolution. What is it? The fossil fuel divestment resolution. That's what we'll go with.
Godwin seconds.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the 2023 ASWWU resolution in favor of continued fossil fuel divestment say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Next, we still have officer reports. Yeah, thank you guys so much for speaking of. Oh, and also, once you guys are done taking a photo, feel free to take any of the food that you have. It was from an event earlier, so you're welcome to help yourself to any food that's there. Yeah, so as President Sabal said, I met with him, or first I wanted to say thank you guys for being flexible, moving the agenda around. I wanted to not keep President Sabal until like 6 p.m. tonight, so we're not keeping super late. And so that's why we moved everything around, and officer reports are happening last on the agenda, but I really like them happening earlier since they can maybe help, I think, set the tone of a lot friendlier board meeting when they happen first. I don't have too much that I want to go over. Number one is, I don't think I shared it officially, but the official numbers of how many people applied for the Vice President for Activities position was 9, and I am extremely proud to have that much engagement with student government on campus. It absolutely blows my mind, and I really hope that the same amount of involvement with student government or excitement to be involved continues past just this filing, and hopefully continues for not only the election but also past the election and filing, and it's just very exciting. And then I had a meeting with President Sabal today, or not today, yesterday, and we went over a couple of different things. We talked briefly about the resolution that's coming forward. We also talked about the previous statement that we approved on supporting students, and then we also kind of talked about the general well-being of students. I really shared a lot about how we can continue to educate students that if they feel uncomfortable or if they feel threatened or harmed by a statement that is made on social media, shared on social media, or sent to them on social media, that they have the same tools to address that on campus as they would if it was a physical in-person statement or something that was happening off social media. Because students are experiencing a lot of stuff on social media, whether it be harassment, bullying, death threats at some extent for some people, and it's very, very hard on Western's campus right now. And so I talked to him about possibly doing some maybe education or involvement, or really just sharing with students that they can fill out a bias report, that they can go to the university PD, and that it is going to be taken as seriously as any other type of threat, because I feel like students right now, they feel like they're not, the threats on social media are not being treated with the same level of like seriousness as if they were in person. And so President Sabat really listened to that, and really glad and interested to see what would come out of that. And that's kind of the main thing. We will be meeting next week to discuss the charter. So far that is going to be Gabe, myself, and Sophie. There hasn't been a student senator appointed to that yet. We are going to be meeting, and then hopefully we're going to go over the charter, hopefully start with bi-weekly meetings that go through the rest of the quarter, or weekly meetings that go through the rest of the quarter, and then also to the beginning of January to be passed early mid to early January once we come back from break. And it still stands. If anybody has anything that they would like to add to the charter, any questions that they have, it does not stop just because it's not on our agenda currently. It is coming back in December, or not December, it's coming back in January, but that does not mean the end of the conversation for everybody in this room. If you have anything that you would like to add, you're more than welcome to attend the meeting. You're more than welcome to come to the task force and share any thoughts that you have. But yeah, if you have anything, please let me know, and we can figure out a way that your thoughts can get also into the charter discussion. Okay.
Quick advisor note, reinforcement, recognize that this is a generational opportunity. Your last charter was approved when? 2010. Right? This is a substantive act that you all are undertaking. So I encourage you all to continue to treat it as such and be fully voiced in your efforts to get that updated, so you have the government you all want and need.
Okay, next we are going to be going to Gabe for your Senate President report.
Yeah, so sort of what I've been working on personally recently has been really relating to, obviously I guess maybe I can start with, first we had a resignation in the Student Senate, Mark Locke, CSD, College of Science and Engineering, Senator has resigned, so we'll be working on filling that appointment. So my job is just appointments. But yeah, so we're hopefully going to have two graduate senators appointed by the 20th. Yeah, the 20th. Hopefully we'll have two grad senators appointed, and we'll have at that point 19 senators seated. I'm going to start working on the outreach and appointment process for the CSD senator to replace Marv, and that we're aiming for before we recess, but it is possible that it'll end up moving into January. The student senate is full swing. Everyone's basically got their committees, got their projects. I'm really glad that it's going so well. I've heard some good things from Brad and from other administrators about people are very much engaged this year, and it's was unable to make it to the student senate meeting this past week, so I can't entirely report on that. The Finance Council is still going and starting up. That's the AS Finance Council. We're probably going to start looking at budgets and the AS Finance Council charter for probably start doing that sort of stuff. I've been in conversation with the chair of Finance Council, and I've also reached out to other chairs of AS committees about sort of standardizing parliamentary procedures. So something I'll probably try to bring up at some point before the end of this quarter, just fully implementing our the new sort of more comprehensive parliamentary procedure, and then just other structural things, looking at the bylaws with sort of the Senate bylaws specifically, with a subset of student senators, and Adam and Leona, and hopefully we get that process sort of going. And obviously, I think with that specifically, there are considerations to be made about the executive board bylaws also. Maybe some of these conversations will merge at some point, and also the AS charter conversations. I've also been sort of just in the back of my mind thinking about the AS constitution, because that will also, once we have the new charter, that will all fall in place. And hopefully my goal would be to have the new AS constitution ratified in the spring general elections. There's also we're sort of Kira and Aaron are going to be meeting to further discuss a ceasefire resolution about Gaza, and seeing what really is how that pans out. It's going to, I think, Morgan, you haven't seen it yet, but I can send it to you.
Can we wait till we send it, because I haven't had a chance to review it and we haven't had a chance to meet, so before it reaches any other bodies, I would like it to move, if we're going back to procedures and what it is, the chair of the committee is supposed to be the one who, or the chair of the executive board or the body that's passing is the one who's supposed to be sending that out to people. So before we send it out and figure out that process, we do need first to have a meeting between you, Aaron, and I, before it continues to go to a broader scale. I think we go back to the 3 people, and we need to have a meeting with us 3 before we're bringing our stakeholders in and figuring out who our stakeholders are for this conversation.
Yeah, that's what you totally do that.
That would be great, thank you.
Yeah, so that's just something that's under consideration. There's been some, I think senators are also starting to do some work, just outreach in general is really good. And I think there's, in terms of just both relating to our previous statement on Gaza and any future action we might take, there's definitely some consideration about getting involved in the community and like really just engaging with students. I think is one of the big things that the Student Senate is focused on, and it's going to be really important for, especially this resolution. Yeah.
This is your report, so I'm not going to ask you and bombard you with questions, but maybe more so for everyone else. With that statement that we passed, do we have a sort of distribution plan for that, or are we like holding off? Just curious what the update on that was.
Yeah, so currently I've been working on collecting all of these resources. It's just been me, even though it's passed through the Student Senate, it's kind of fallen onto me to be the one who sent that out. I've been extremely busy doing everything, like the committee meetings, taking over VP for activities, and also filing for VP for activities. So I've slowly been collecting different resources across the campus community. I just got a response back from VTalk yesterday with everything that the ESC and the AEI unit offers, and so hopefully we will be sending out either late this week or early next week, but we've really just been working on collecting all of the resources because we said that we would send it out with resources, and that takes additional work past just passing the resolution that I do not always have time to engage in, and it's really fallen to me to be the one who is in charge of sending them out.
So those resources that you mentioned, those are the ones that we like had to wrap around at the end of the statement that we were going to put. Okay, just a quick clarifying question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's basically everything I have for my report.
Aaron.
I'm legitimately clearing my throat. Yeah, just to jump off of what Gabe was saying for a little bit. I was gonna say I kind of for myself. But yeah, I was approached and also kind of inserted myself into this conversation about a resolution on a ceasefire in Gaza, but that's very much like in process between Gabe, Kira, and I. And we kind of also, outside of these statements, we have discussed like doing broader outreach and being in community and communication with students across the campus. If you haven't heard, there's a teach-in happening in Fairhaven on Wednesday around 9:30. I can send more information about that. I want to reach out to the organizers if there's interest here about us maybe like having a table outside, like providing an opportunity for students to like give direct feedback to us or like speak to their student government representatives. So if that's something that people are feeling like they'd be able to attend as a government representative, any interest in that?
I think that's a cool idea. We need to be very careful about how we do it.
Yeah.
Like if we have a table and then we have a bunch of free AS stickers in there, it's going to seem like we're just promoting the AS outside of a talk about a very sensitive subject. But I do like the idea of having some way to field student thoughts and like concerns about this.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking.
I know.
Something that they had at the, there was an event in NPR of like the city of Bellingham playing, and it was very interactive of like just having like sticky notes and like pieces of paper with pens and people can just like write things.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Like we're just like a receptacle. We're not like we're not necessarily advocating for things there. We're just saying like we are here to listen and we want you to be heard like by us. So that's something there that I wanted to bring up. It was something that the LAC could touch on, but it going through the executive board needs to happen first because we're the governing body. But the Legislative Affairs Council deals with legislative affairs. Our primary focus, of course, is on our legislative agenda, so the updates that have to do with that are in the past 2 meetings. This meeting specifically, we made a lot of progress. So our first meeting was October 24th with all of our different groups, and we had to like, get everybody on the same page of like the legislative process and the purpose of the LAC. And we continued that in the second meeting. And in the second meeting, we opened up this conversation about intersectionality and what that means to people in the room and also like the groups that they represent. And so we had a discussion about like political identity, forgetting the definition of that, but just like the way that these identities like intersect, but also like privileges that people have and like the necessity of allyship. And so we want to like make sure that we're representing a diverse student body and our like diverse interests. And so that's something that the LAC like is its primary focus and target like going forward. So this past meeting, we spent the bulk of it crafting a student survey about legislative priorities and most specifically like issue areas. And so some issue areas that we like grouped together are sex, gender, and sexuality, race, ethnicity, and nationality, accessibility, higher education, socioeconomic conditions and basic needs, and sustainability and climate action. So we have like specific questions related to those issues, and then also we wanted to get a sense of like the students' policy priorities. But that's something that we were gonna not like be published to the public. It was gonna be used for like LAC like research purposes, I guess. But I am gonna share the survey with you all next week as an information item. It wasn't written until like 4 p.m. on Wednesday, so I didn't have a chance to get it on this agenda. But yeah, I mean, as of now, like it is open, so you can all see it like in an informal capacity. You can even fill it out. I'll also we're gonna close it on November 20th, so it's gonna be out for like a week and a half. And I can come back like with the results of that, and just like we're not gonna base the agenda like off of the results. It's just gonna be kind of like just getting a sense of like where the student body is at, if we can get it out to as many people as possible. Yes, Kira.
I have a question. I know previously being part of LAC, the agenda was exclusively used to craft the agenda. So my question is, especially since it's already November, it's going to be ending in mid-November on like the 20th, and I remember my birthday's the 21st, and I remember being part of LAC, my birthday is as well, but I remember being part of LAC and meeting on my 21st birthday, and we actually had large parts of the agenda ready to go, the sections outlined and started writing, and it took us a long time to finish up until like it needed to be ready fully. And so my question is, if it's not being used to create the agenda, have you started creating the agenda? And since the survey isn't being used to outline the different policy areas, how are the policy areas being chosen?
Yeah, so part of my thinking and like the survey and the discussion we had with the survey was like, again, a lot of the people in this room like don't have any experience in the legislative sphere, and so it was something where they were reaching out to their peers and saying like, okay, when you think of legislation, when you think of an issue, like what comes to mind? And so like the survey was almost like a primer, but like the questions that people came up with like have to do with policy, and like that policy is also going to be part of the legislative agenda itself. So some of the let's see, things they have on here were, well, about police training with racial bias and people with disabilities, having mental health resources and better funding, supporting undocumented students or students with mixed status households, some things that were brought up at the WSA conference about allowing abortion pills on student health centers on campus, and operational student employees having a framework for collective bargaining. But yeah, so we're trying to incorporate like ideas that originate like within the LAC, things that are coming from like the Washington Student Association, things that are already like from existing agendas or like were brought up last year, and then also incorporating students' like perspectives on it. But next week is going to be when we're like hammering down and getting like more into specifics. So like with the crafting of the survey, like people have already identified issues that like they think are important, and we're going to be like developing further on those in addition to like incorporating other ideas that come to us.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Sorry. How are you prepared to handle not being able to cover every topic issue? I know last year there was kind of a struggle since the lobby day agenda was so long. It was one of the longest ones that we've had, and I know that there was a lot to go to a smaller one that only focuses on a couple short areas and just kind of outlines specific general areas. How are you going to handle, since I know you have so many different people that are engaging in the conversation, how are you going to be handling maybe not being able to cover every policy area in one end?
I think that's going to be an ongoing conversation, especially with my vice chair, Stella. She's really been involved as a leader in this, and we've been having it be very open and collaborative, but in restructuring, I guess not restructuring, or actually no, we fully restructured like the LAC and the charter. We are like finding our way and navigating through this new path. SOB. Welcome. I'm just giving my like chair report about the LAC. But we are under different circumstances and under a different timeline than like past was the case in the past. Like in the past with the LAC and the stress that came along with the urgency of needing to be prepared like by the end of the fall quarter and right at the beginning of the third quarter. I made it very clear to everyone the timeline that we have that we were going to finalize like a solid first draft by the end of this quarter, and that's going to be brought to the executive board. And then when we come back from winter break, we're going to have like that finalized by the end of January, like giving us like 3 weeks. But it's something that I'm encouraging people to, strongly encouraging people to come to LAC like prepared with ideas, that when we're in LAC, they're not coming up with it, we're ready to like have these discussions. Okay.
Well, I just want to clarify, if we remember it correctly, but we're only doing Western Intersection Lobby Day 3 times the Martin Luther President's Day.
Yeah, so that's additionally, it is intersectional lobby day, and that's why we have this discussion about intersectionality and what that means to people. And so the decision of the like what the agenda ultimately like turns out to be is not going to be like exclusively made by me. It's going to be a decision with all of these different people, and so I'm going to guide that. You know, make sure it's well structured and ideally concise, but in inviting like so many different perspectives. Like I want those perspectives like to be heard and also respected and represented like to the best of my ability.
Okay. I know that was a lot, sorry. No, you're okay. You always, the Vice President for Governmental Affairs always gets to bring forward, I feel like, some of the more interesting stuff with the lobbying agenda. So we're very interested and we love to hear the continual updates. And I think that it's really important, especially so when the agenda comes before us, it's not a surprise. We're very aware of what it is, the areas we're focusing on. And please continue to talk to us and update us when able to once you have those policy areas outlined and what you're focusing on, so then we can kind of talk about it, or if we're like, maybe we think this is missing, is something that we can kind of talk about. So please feel free, even if it's a very outline of here's the areas that we're covering, we can put that on the exec board as an information item. We would love to see it.
I'm going to do that right after this, so I don't forget. What we had really having discussions about in LAC this past Tuesday.
Okay, Sophie, you are here right in time for your Vice President report. So coming up and moving to the end, so you were here right in time. Thank you.
So I think the most notable thing is I went to RHA last night. And they're doing some really awesome things there, some really cool events that are really stacked, like a lot of people showing up. And so I'm probably going to meet with the RPDs individually and talk to them about.
Sorry, advisor question, acronyms? RHA, RPP?
Sorry, Residents Hall Association. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what RPD stands for. It's probably residents. So basically, they're delegates of each, Fairhaven and Buchanan Towers, and
is it the resident programming board?
Yes.
Yes.
Residents Programming Board.
Is that like the old fall councils? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And they're doing lots of stuff, very excited. However, I was talking about, some concerns that they have just generally. Fairhaven specifically is kind of in it right now, and they're actually pretty frustrated. They were talking to me, they said that they deal with this problem every year, and that it's pretty frustrating that, they voted down to lose the Xfinity thing, and they thought that was going to be going towards some more infrastructure, stuff, and then that didn't happen, and they kind of feel a little bit like nobody's in their corner. So I'm going to try and maybe I'm going to be going to every single one, and I might even give you guys updates every time that I go. It's once a month or once a quarter. And I met them all. They're super great, super nice, and some of them are actually interested in maybe joining student government next year. So very excited. I've been hyping it up quite a bit. So Emergency Management Council committee is getting up and running. They haven't had a student on it for a couple of years, is what they said, and that they're very excited to have a student on it. There might be room for more students, maybe senators. I'm not sure though. They're just getting the whole list together. They're having their first meeting of the year in 2 weeks. So more on that, because the Monica Jackson is the new chair of that. They have a new position just for her because she's so amazing and super smart. And so I'm very excited to see how that goes. They want to plan more education around students, education about the emergency plan, so people are prepared in case, a new COVID flare up or, a fire drill. People are more aware of what to do in case of an emergency. And I feel I was that's definitely something that student government can work on, and me specifically, but getting input from you guys along the way. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like trying to figure out everything that I've been doing. So I woo, just got here. That's pretty much everything of note that I wanted to tell you guys.
Super exciting. Any questions?
Yeah, one. Can you sort of explain broadly the structure of RHA? Like you had mentioned that like the RPD, is it like the RH, the Residence Hall Association, is like the group of it where like all the different residence halls like come together, or?
So I won't confuse myself, but I know that there is an RHA board specifically, but not all of those seats are filled. Only 2 of those seats are filled at the moment. And so what they're kind of doing is that they have, the RHA board, but they're just kind of leading a discussion with the residence programming board members from and there's like 2 RPBs per like housing community. And they were just there and talking about the events that they were putting on, the general like concerns that they had. But yeah, I don't think everything is filled, so it's a little difficult to discern the structure. So yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't answer that question very well.
I have a question. So do you know if the reason that they've been struggling to fill seats is because of lost my train of thought. Sorry. Is because of like a lack of engagement, or is it just because they just started trying to fill seats?
I mean, I didn't really get a sense of specifics. I just, I know that the person who's in it right now is also fairly new, but I know the advisor who left, he left before I could talk to him, but it seems like they're having a lot of engagement with students, but not people who want to like be on the board and things like that. So I think that they're having RPBs mostly run for the RHA positions. Yeah. So I think it is not a lack of engagement by students in the programming, but lack of engagement in like the wanting to govern and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm interested just because I feel like it's very telling of the interaction with student government with RHA. I feel like that is a leadership role that a lot of student government individuals have before they step into the role of student government, especially since it tends to be freshmen, sophomore, or juniors, and student government tends to skew a little bit into your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th year. So it's interesting to see if that might be a trend that will continue to affect student government or not. So. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, this is unrelated to anything you said, but it was in the back of my mind, and now we're reaching the end of the call quarter, is when our microfill learning contract, we had Swipe Out Hunger, and from my understanding, Chartwell's has not implemented something similar. Do you know anything about that?
I do not, although I have, when I talked to them, they seemed very positive about Chartwell's. They seemed very like, we like it better than the people who were here last year were like better than our work. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, they seem, especially like the people who've been here for longer than a year, seem very positive about it. Yeah. But that's all I have so far. But on that note, like, does anybody have any like questions or anything that they want to ask RHA that I can just like vessel over to them? And you can like send me an email too if you can't think of anything today. But do you have anything? No. Okay. And I'm done.
Yeah, thank you so much. And next we have advisor report, if anything kind of would like to add.
I am acutely aware that I am the last agenda item before other business, which is the last agenda item before potentially adjourning this meeting, so I'll try to keep this a little bit short. On tactical logistical notes, thank you to everybody that has scheduled their one-on-ones with me. If you haven't done that yet, please make sure you get that on the calendar soon. Sophie, thank you for the emergency management reminder. This leads into my next topic, which I'm going to kind of umbrella as self-care for this governing body, and I am going to start scheduling sessions for this group and Senate as well all invitation, they're not going to be required, but perhaps highly encouraged to help these groups have space and time to reflect on essential operations, how everybody's doing, in times of crisis, which this is an acute time of crisis on our campus, in case you haven't all noticed. It's pretty sensitive right now. I am acutely aware from my seat that you all put yourselves out there as passionate, knowledgeable, and available individuals. And part of what that means for each of you in your roles is also becoming targets, both for positive and for challenge. And so I'm going to be working on a supportive framework directly for this body to be able to process that. Some of that's just going to be revisiting our group norms so that we continue to develop ourselves as a community of care so that we can model that to others. One of the really small tactical items is how many of you know the closest emergency exit should we ever have an incident in our AS government offices?
Only because you should.
Okay, Karen. So, for instance, something that might not have gone over in training, I'm going to increase the number of people that understand where that exit is. In case you don't know, go past OCE out that door, you'll be into an outdoor bay that's an actual exit down onto, you can get to Garden Street that way, instead of winding up through any of the exits or taking the elevators, right? So it's everything from simple stuff like that to mental health first aid and things that we need to do to support each other in community. It was really powerful for me to, be in the community listening session hosted yesterday by our Chief Diversity Officer, Jacqueline Hughes. She invited Katie Potts, our Chief of Police, to open the session. I found it interesting and really powerful to have our Chief of Police be a member of our caring community, facing forward with our students and expressing to everyone present that for the first time in her career, she's concerned about the safety of her community. It's so flammable right now between individuals, between groups, and between communities. She's confident that UPD is ready to respond. She's worried that UPD is not hearing enough to be able to keep this community safe and sensing that the tensions are higher than normal. So I bring that to you all not as a burden, but as a reminder of awareness and as a charge for each of us in this body as a community to continue to help caring for each other. So that's a little bit of a soapbox, a little bit of a report, and a little bit of a promise from your advising team that that's part of our role. And don't forget that we're here for you. Your entire administration is here for you. Not everybody has the president of the university on speed dial. Not everyone has access to each VP, each provost that you meet with. Take advantage of that support system. Remember that along with your responsibility, some of that responsibility is to yourself, to help you care for yourself so you can keep doing this job. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other business? No? Okay, I would like to adjourn this meeting at 6:47 p.m.